Paris, Monday, April the 22nd, the Porte de Versailles Exhibition Centre is in full swing. More than 240 historic cars have gathered here. Sitting in his co-driver's seat, Patrice is studious because in a few hours he will set off for a week of tour auto. I am now preparing the special stages, and more in particular the one in Montlhéry, because we won't have too much time that morning. We cross our fingers that it's neither too cold or too wet, for at the moment we are a little uncovered. But it's part of the game. This is a British car, and the Brits have a saying that one should never cancel a picnic, even if it rains. It's time for the final preparations. The traditional auction is in full swing, while the fans wander through the aisles to admire the beautiful machinery that is on display for a few more hours before heading south for 5 days of racing. On the BMW stand, the leading cars rub shoulders with several 3-litre CSLs, models that the organizers have put in the spotlights this year. On the Ferrari stand, there is a presence of an icon, a 250 GTO. To be able to admire such a car has become so rare that the moment is simply precious. The GTO would almost overshadow the incredible 512M, a prototype with which John of B and Sibel have the firm intention of being at the front when they arrive in Biarritz. And there's more red cars like this beautiful 404, which will bring a spark to the eyes of the public. It's a project started by our boss a year and a half ago. He decided to promote all maintenance professions through the restoration of this car. We even did some rebuilding, whether it was bodywork or engine or painting. It's a joint effort of 16 people who, through the search of parts, through the work that was done during and outside office hours, gave us the opportunity to participate in this tour auto. It was a challenge that lasted for a year and a half. Let's leave Paris, because after all, cars are made to drive, as Patrick Péter understood so well 34 years ago by creating the event inspired by the Tour de France Automobile. François and Patrice are among the first to set off in the freezing cold conditions, but they're well equipped in their roadster, so there's no problem. After all, there's no bad weather conditions, there's only bad equipment. The official start is given in Montlhéry. It's not every day that drivers can put their cars on the legendary speed ring for a first warm-up stage.
Tu m'entends?
Ouais, je t'entends.
Ouais.
Tu m'entends aussi?
Ouais.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go! Allez, c'est parti!
Montlhéry is a century-old track, barely a year younger than the one of the 24 Hours of Le Mans, where the drivers meet for the first of the 4 circuit events of the week. At Le Mans, it's impossible not to look at the prototypes. These are the cars that are the headliners of this year's Tour Auto. Porsche may hold the absolute record for the number of victories at Le Mans. Their first win in 1970 with the 917 was a result of a fairly long process, with a line of magnificent prototypes. There was the 904 first of all, followed by the 906 and the 910. All 3 models were present at the Tour Auto, and there is no race in the world where it is possible to see these 3 cars race together on circuits or special stages.
Avant la 917, ils se sont essayés avec différents.
Before the 917, they experimented with different engines. There were 6 cylinders, there were even 8 cylinders. There were a couple of 10 cylinders too, very few people know that. And there was a 12 as well. But this one has 6 cylinders and 550 kilograms. It's just like a kart. Bringing a Porsche 910 back to the legendary Le Mans circuit, for me that's very exciting.
Génial.
During the race of Grid 3, a BMW 2002 Ti proved to be very popular, and for good reason. At the wheel was Hugo de Sadeleer. He twice took part in the 24 Hours of Le Mans and even finished on the podium in 2018. Hugo has a fabulous driving talent, and he proves it on the Tour Auto in his first participation. This talent, however, is not the result of chance.
J'ai eu le privilège de goûter très jeune
I was lucky to get a taste when I was very young. My mother did the Tour Auto several times, and my father as well. My mother even won it in competition. And even when I was very little, I had the opportunity to drive an Alpine 1600S. I think even before I started racing, I was driving around in an Alpine, and that's something that gave me the passion for historic racing. Here we have to relearn how to drive in a more classic, more engaging way, and it's much more about feeling the car and the road. I think that's something that's a bit lacking in modern racing. Since the Tour Auto is a travelling event, there are stopovers in a large city every evening. But there was something special this year when the caravan stopped at the barn of Meslay in Indre-et-Loire. It's an unusual destination, but it's so obvious when you discover the magic of the place. It's a service park as bucolic as it is unexpected. And once again there is a huge crowd who admire the cars, but also the mechanics at work. The Tour Auto is not an event for late risers. The sun has barely risen and it's time for the competitors to return to their cars. But the old ones must wake up gently. It's important to take the time, let the engine warm up before tackling a long day of driving and racing. Especially when the car has not been the subject of a total restoration, like this magnificent 1955 Alfa Romeo, the oldest car among the competition participants.
Yeah, it's very special because most of the car has its first paint, and so it's a little bit flat. And it was a former police car in Italy from the Polizia di Stato. And the Polizia di Stato used this car for long distance races. And sometimes they won their classes.
They accompanied the other cars and sometimes they won the class.
Of course, the people of the Tour Auto are looking for winding roads and a rally-style route for the special stages, all contested on closed roads. Cars are therefore pushed to their limits sometimes, but that's the aim of the game. Sometimes the car breaks or takes a hit, but fortunately the service people are never far away. When you brake, do you feel that you have brakes at the front? And when it's at the rear, do you lose at the front? Do you think there's too much front brake and as a result it gets hot? And that's what we're losing? No. Okay, I'll put the top down and get under the car, dry it out and remount the wing. After Le Mans, a circuit known to most drivers, the Tour heads to Val de Vienne for this second day of racing. And here it's a bit of a different story because this track is a lot less known than that of La Sarthe. Okay, so here we go. That's a tight corner. I think he will stay on the inside of the corner here. And then you brake late because the corner only tightens at the end. Every year setting up an event like the Tour Auto is a real tour de force. And even though the Tour Auto people have 33 years of experience, it requires extraordinary expertise. On the circuits, everything is organized like sheet music. A park to wait and prepare, a practice session to allow the drivers to get their bearings, then a starting grid established according to the results of the day before, and finally a race of 7 to 10 laps depending on the length of the track. And then off we go. All this is repeated for all 5 grids. And then we continue with the special stages. Well helped by local sports organizations, the Tour Auto closes traffic and secures sections of road to compete in special stages against the clock. And there's 2 or 3 of these stages every day. It's almost 12 months of work every year. And then there are the stopover towns, which must meet certain criteria of space, hotel capacity, and of course be located on the route of the Tour, like Limoges, Carcassonne, Pau and Biarritz this year. Back to the race and to the timing control, where we meet reigning champions Sébastien Berchot and Sébastien Bourdier for a roundup of the classification. It's very close. There's only 10 seconds between the top 3 cars. Today there are 3 special stages with no circuit racing, and the leader is a bit more efficient on the circuit than on the special stages, and for us it's the opposite. So we hope to be able to make up for lost time today. And it will be an intense battle today. No circuit racing, but 3 special stages on extremely tricky road conditions. Everything okay, guys?
Ouais. Il faut que je
I have
referme
to
mon
tighten the
truc,
wiper
j'ai
because
plus
it no
de
longer
bras.
touches the windscreen,
Ça va
right?
vite, non?
The first 4 corners are easy, okay? This one's dangerous, for it tightens at the end, but it's not too complicated. And the drivers are getting excited inside the cars. The rain makes its appearance on the 3rd stage. In the cars, most drivers take their foot off the gas a little, especially when they have the responsibility of driving an extremely rare car, like the Ligier JS2. Only 3 were ever built, and this is a so-called continuation car, built with particular care and with the help of Michel Tétu, the man who in 1972 designed this French prototype. Exactly, we did it together. He searched for the drawings, which he still had, and we took all measurements again. We drew the car in CAD to be able to completely redo it with tubes, new chassis, new sheet metal, a new hull. Everything was redone identical and consistent with the period model. It's exciting for several reasons. There's the car, of course, the fact that it's unique, and it's quite nice to build a car from scratch as well, and not just to prepare a car. It's really the construction of a car with everything that is involved. So it's quite extraordinary, and it allows us to participate in races like the Tour Auto, a legendary, extraordinary event. Passion is obvious in projects such as that of the Donat team, and passion is one of the driving forces behind the Tour Auto as well.
Zagato, c'est vraiment la plus belle. Ah ouais, magnifique.
The Zagato is truly the most beautiful. It's magnificent. Look at the interior, how well finished it is. It's fantastic. This is like the Holy Grail for us. It's the ultimate dream. It's the most beautiful car of the event, because it's a model that's so rare. It's a magnificent 8-cylinder Fiat engine, and at the end of the 1950s it was very efficient and very robust. Coach builders made different versions, and they produced 115 in total, and of the Zagato, which is probably the prettiest, only 32. So what do we have here then? Well, that's a Lotus. That's 2 of them. And another one? Yes, that's another Lotus. And this one? Oh, it's a Porsche. Oh, it must be something else to drive that. Well, of course, they did the Le Mans 24 hours with that one. Some opt for a seat along the highway, others go for the Instagram spot. And on this year's route, it's without a doubt the village of Carcassonne near the Dordogne, which takes the prize. One must say the image of all these cars between the old bricks of the town looks very good. In the HI category, that of the most powerful cars, there's a great fight at the front. They are really racing. With the Ferrari 308 Group 4, Jérémy Ménechet and Laurent Loubet have a good scrap with Olivier and Nathalie Breitmeier. But sometimes, when you attack too hard, a small driving error could be costly. Olivier Breitmeier brakes a fraction of a second too late, but has the good reflex to choose the escape route rather than crashing. At the foot of the Carcassonne ramparts, plenty of drivers are relieved. The stage was long and tricky. The rain changed the situation and the driving had to be adapted accordingly. We brake not as late as usual, that's very important. You have to be very careful when braking, because that's where you can make a mistake. The wider the tires, the higher the risk to go straight, so that's why I was very careful. And it was a downhill section as well. I have a rear engine, so that pushes me forwards when braking. You have to change the attitude and show some courage when taking the corners. We no longer take them on the inside. We change all racing lines when it's wet. You have to anticipate everything, and you should definitely not exit the corners too aggressively. But we have a competitor who's only 10 seconds behind us, so it's going to be a good fight. We have to continue. Did you recognize them? Boris de Richebourg and Paul Belmondo in the Le Mans 2000 version.
Vous avez un peu changé.
We have changed a little, it seems.
On a rajeuni, oui.
Yes, we have become younger. We've done this for good fun, of course. We had acquired the racing suits through friends and we thought it was fun to wear them because we like both these drivers. We like what they did in racing, so we thought it was fun. At the wheel of their Volvo 142, they are among those entered in the regularity category. In these two grids, we find a good number of popular cars that have taken part in the Tour de France Automobile, such as the Dauphine, the Peugeot 203 or the Peugeot of our firefighters still in the race.
Chicane. Attention, gravier. Dans 800 mètres. À gauche.
Talking about regularity, here's a little word of explanation and a full-scale demonstration of this discipline, which at the Tour is done exclusively with old-fashioned chronographs, banning the use of modern electronics. There's no point in having electronics. This is what makes it so nice. It's about doing things like they did it in the past. They drove like this back then, and today we drive exactly the same. That's what we're looking for, in fact. Regularity is solely focused on the three things that I have in front of me. My odometer, which turns every 100 meters, my chronographs, and my regularity table. From the moment we leave, I start my chronographs. I tell her if she's early or late, so at the start, obviously, we are at 0, so in fact we are late. So I tell her to go, go, go until my counter, my chronographs and my regularity table are ticking at the same time. With the corners, I'm never consistent, so my job is to tell her to speed up or to slow down so that we can tick at the same time. Thank you for following us on the stage. In regularity, the type of car is a little less important than in competition, which is why there is a wide variety of cars, even though the leader of the category halfway through the event does not totally agree. It's still important to have a bit of power, because the only thing we cannot control is the elevation of the roads. So if the route takes you up a mountain, then you have a little power. If you want to maintain the average, you need a little boost. So you need a car with a little bit of oomph. Like Etienne Bruet, journalists and TV presenters have always been fans of the Tour Auto, and they never hesitate to get behind the wheel, like François Alain, Grégory Gallify, Jean-Pierre Gadjic, or Jerry and Aurélien, the two friends of wheeler dealers. The Tour Auto, a tale of friendship, obviously. At a corner of a Pyrenees mountain pass, we came across a pretty Austin Healey parked on the side of the road, with a Belgian driver and an American co-driver.
You make new friends, all car enthusiasts, the people, it's just fantastic.
You met last year?
Yeah, we met last year.
Yeah. Our car numbers were very similar, so you find when your cars are close in number, you end up seeing each other throughout the week and you make good friends. We've made several friends this week too.
Americans, Mexicans, Argentinians, there's a number of crews coming from afar to taste the pleasure of driving on the French roads as part of the Tour Auto. Every year there's more of them, and the traditional French-style picnic is a special moment appreciated by all. It's a tradition that a Tour Auto lunch takes place in the mountains on the side of the road with a gourmet picnic basket distributed to all participants. It's part of the event, it's really nice. I thought it was tomorrow, but when I saw it was today, I was really happy. Isn't this nice now? I'm going for an afternoon nap after this. I'm really thinking about that. And this year the picnic took place on April 26th. An ordinary date, not at all, for April 26th is the International Vintage Vehicle Day. Did you know that? Let's go and celebrate that in Nogaro with a bit of rain. In the afternoon, huge storms hit the region. On the special stage and on the Nogaro circuit, drivers tackle a dry road or a very wet asphalt, depending on the classification. For the road opener, that doesn't change anything. And for good reason. For if you are a former World Rally champion, have 10 WRC wins under your belt and 4 Dakar victories, it's not a few drops of rain that will scare you.
Ouvreur, Tourauto.
Road opener at the Tourauto, it's the best job in the world. You have all the fun and none of the stress. You're the first car, you have a look, check that the road is open first, because sometimes we can have animals crossing the road. If there's a horse or a cow walking across, you never know. And we will also check if there's no people or something else on the road, which we will mention at the end of the stage. And if everything goes well, then the road section is open and everyone can go for it. It's a lot of fun. It really is the best job. Victory in the Tourauto is decided in Nogaro. The Grid 4 race begins on a dry track, with Sébastien Berchon 10 seconds behind Emmanuel Brigand. Anything is possible between these two. But in the last lap, with Brigand winning and enjoying his lap of honor, he's surprised to discover his opponent's Jaguar stuck in the gravel trap of the last corner. I braked at the same mark like I did the 7 laps before, but I don't know what happened. I was all alone, I wasn't fighting, but the rear wheels just locked up and sent me spinning off into the gravel trap. So I won't take the double this year, but we were not far away. It's part of the game, and that's what makes a Tourauto so charming. Until the finish, until Biarritz, nothing is decided. From the end of the Pyrenees Boulevard in Pau, one can see the Pyrenees Mountains. It's magnificent, but that's on a clear day, so we'll have to come back another day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Pau-Arnaud circuit. It's a bit chilly this Saturday morning, but the number 1 grid of the 2024 Tourauto has just taken to the track. It's time for the final stage of this Tourauto. Pau-Arnaud is one of those old-school circuits whose layout follows the lines of the terrain like Charade or Dijon-Prenois. For a driver, it's a treat and a guaranteed pleasure for the many spectators attending the Tourauto. If you have your sights set on victory, you have to perform well, both on the circuits and on the special stages. But the drivers and the machines always have a slight preference for one or the other.
Oh, I prefer the circuits. We need to gain some time on number 2, meaningfully. If we can't, then it's going to be difficult. It's very difficult to gain a lot of time on the special stages.
After Pau, it's time to head towards the Basque Country, but there's still some rain in the air. Lunch break is held at Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, and as is the case since the start of the Tourauto, the competitors are welcomed in an exceptional setting. That was the case at the Abbaye de l'Épau in Le Mans, at the Logis des Piliers, a 14th century historical monument in Vienne, or even in this incredible lunchroom within the Beaulieu Abbey in Rouergue. The final stretch towards Biarritz is Dantian, a nightmare for meteorologists, so it's better to trust local sayings like the one that says that when you can't see the mountains, it's raining, and when you do see the mountains, that is because it is about to rain. And it's true, the following sequence was filmed in less than 15 minutes. In this extremely violent storm, it is important to tiptoe through the corners, especially in a Shelby Cobra.
3, 2, 1, 0.
God, sorry. It's okay, it's okay. Left, hard left. Hairpin, right.
Ocean City Biarritz is the finish of the Tour Auto 2024. In regularity, Marc Jay and Etienne Bruet can pocket the big win of the Tour Auto. I thought the course was fabulous. It was really beautiful. We saw some very beautiful roads. We did some very nice special stages. We had a little dip in the middle of the week, but I think that, like everyone, we had our ups and downs. Winning is an enormous satisfaction, of course, but for the majority of the participants, crossing the finish line is the main goal. So there is often plenty of emotions when doing so, as is the case for our firefighter friends.
Bien joué, Maj. Maj, bien joué.
All these emotions, we owe them to one man, Patrick Peter, who 34 years ago had the idea of inventing the Tour Auto. He decided to hand over the reins, and when he crossed his last finish line, Patrick, who doesn't really like being in the spotlight, was helped by the elements. The first things that come to mind here at the finish line in Biarritz. There's a storm coming. There really is. Get some cover. And that's all we'll ever know about Monsieur Tour Auto's emotions. As for the overall winners, there was no problem on the final day. They almost claimed victory the day before, so it's just a formality for Emmanuel Brigand and Jan Albert. We must be 30, even 40 drivers fighting against the clock. We have to prepare the car, get the notes for the stages right. I'm more of a circuit person, but it's real hard work, great preparation, and it's a good level of competition. I've been French and European champion a couple of times before, but I still consider this as something very special. At the end of an epic fight in the HI category, the one with the most recent cars, Olivier and Nathalie Breitmeier and their BMW M1 were just beaten by Jérémy Ménechet and Laurent Loubet, emerging from the deluge to become the winners in Biarritz. But the final word is for the man who opened this movie. Patrice is also at the finish of his fourth Tour Auto in the company of his friend François. We're happy, but we didn't really shine. The Basque country is beautiful, but wet. It's very beautiful stage today. A very nice circuit this morning, as we said, a great road section. It's a beautiful country.